We are back. After installing the floor insulation in a unique way, today we are going to lay down the floor in the van. Now, most people opt for a subfloor, then put the finished floor on top. But if you've been keeping up with our previous videos, you know we like to do things a bit differently and more efficiently. It's really important to keep the space and the weight down, so we are going all in one. We won't have a subfloor. That's why our finished floor is well structured to support the weight of our van. We are going to use two different types of floor, a fancy one for the living area and ply for the garage. The best part is going to make our camper feel like a tiny high-end home on wheels. You won't believe the transformation, so make sure you stick around to see it. Is this how you're working? You have quite good space today here, right? Like quite sunny as well.
Yeah, hello again. So I've cut all the engineered flooring now to fit the van, and it's looking rather nice. Just have a little look here. So yeah, scribed around the wheel arches, the pillar here. It has a strange shape in this area because eventually it's going to be cut out more accurately for the shower tray, which we're not quite sure how we're going to make that yet. So I've just left the floor a little bit longer than what it needs to be so that I can cut it back later. I haven't gone too tight with the scribes where the wall meets the wall and the wheel arch and things, because the wall panels will cover the gaps, and also it allows for a little bit of expansion. I've cut it for the step as well. You'll see that I left it overhanging slightly. The reason is later on I'm going to plant a thinner piece of ply on the face here and this face, and I wanted a little bit of overhang left. This area will be sanded back, probably rounded off a little bit here, and maybe painted black or something, just to make it look a bit better on the ply edge. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. In terms of gluing this down, which I haven't done yet, plan is to do it bit by bit because the glue I have is a really fast setter, and I need to apply quite a bit of weight to the boards because they have a bit of spring in them just where they've been sitting around and got out of shape a little bit. So I need to weigh them down while the glue goes off, and I don't have enough weights to kind of hold every board down. So what I'm thinking is just to put a lot of weight, pin down this one first at the end, because pinning down this one will actually hold all the other ones at this end flat if I let this glue go off first, and then probably I'll just do a couple of boards at a time until it's all done, just so I can move the weight I have around. So yeah, that's that. Hello again. So yesterday I finished gluing down the rest of the oak flooring here. I'm just using the batteries to weigh it down at the moment because these batteries are seriously heavy and they do a great job at pinning the floor down while the glue sets. So now that's done, the next thing I need to do is run the cables in the trunking that we installed earlier. This is the trunking here, which runs to the front of the van where we have our starter battery, which is a 48 volt starter battery because it's a hybrid system. So I'm going to be running those cables in first thing. Once those cables are installed, I will be then putting the 12mm ply subfloor down in the rear area. We've gone for a structural 12mm ply because it's a solid base underneath with the polystyrene. It's a slightly different scenario to when you're putting down, say, an 18mm ply onto battens, and it's not the insulation isn't supporting the ply, but the battens are supporting the ply instead, which means it needs to be a little bit stronger. But because it's being supported throughout consistently by the polystyrene and being glued directly to it, 12mm will give us a surface which is strong enough to put pretty much anything on. So yeah, that's the job for this morning. just going to show you the result of the garage floor, the 12mm ply that I've glued down. As you'll see in the video, once I'd scribed one side to the contours of the van, I could then flip it over and use it as a template for the ply on the other side. So this is how it's looking right now. You can see I've got a few clamps in place and things like that. I'll just show you now. I've just packed it down off of the existing holes in the van, just using bits of ply just to hold it down while the expanding glue sets, just to stop it lifting the ply up. Along this edge here, I've clamped it down to the bodywork of the van, just to pin it while the glue sets. I've also glued together the joints on the ply with the expanding glue. And yeah, again, I just put some heavy batteries on the floor just to hold it down, because the floor isn't perfectly flat in this van, so this will just kind of make the ply take the shape of the van, so it's nice and solid underneath. Just while I've been waiting for that to dry, I've just been tweaking the window a little bit because the screws that came with it were really bad. So I'd recommend maybe throwing away the screws it came with if you was to buy this window, and just use I just use some regular really short wood screws. You can see I had difficulty getting some of them out once they've been in. They just kind of rounded off and would never come out again, so I had to put quite a bit of work into getting them back out. But now that I've re-secured with all the packers around the edges and got the screws nice and tight and the gaps nice and even all the way around, I've just filled up the remaining gaps with expanding foam, which should just lock everything in a bit nicer and just add a bit more insulation.